He's very good at networking.
Well, I would definitely say he's weathered.
He's rather large and about 6 foot tall.
Bipolar.
He was very charismatic.
It's like, oh yeah, I really like this guy around, but I'm not really gonna, keep him close to me.
Not really aware of the effect he's having on other people.
I can't think of an adjective that means facade, but it's the closest thing I can think of is the maintenance of a facade.
He seemed so huge, like he seemed
Oblivious.
to just fill wherever he was.
It's really sad
not very
to say
Yeah,
that.
he really
Why would you do that?
took up the space. Aggressive.
I feel like those are the 3 words that would describe him the best.
When I was a kid, I was really into reading, and I read all the time, and he had this big bookcase in our basement, and we would read together. He turned me on to, like, Lord of the Rings and Ursula Le Guin, fantasy and sci-fi. So we would read together and then talk about it, and it was a good connection. I'm a PhD student. I'm currently in the English department, and but I do digital media kind of stuff.
He coached my basketball teams, sports teams when I was a kid. There was not a performance that he would miss. If I let him know, he was always there. He was a very big politician in a small town. I know a lot of people thought of him as a very loving, caring father and that he just cared about his kids. People outside of the family, it was a differing point of view. It depended on who you were talking to.
And what I've learned over the years is that he's tried to be nice. He's always offered to be there for me. And even whenever he says, like, oh, no one else loves you like I do, it still shows that he cares.
When I went to college, I ended up very depressed, and I was a very depressed teenager. And I went to college, and I ended up it's a miracle I graduated because I was self-destructing so hard.
I personally had been a smoker and a drinker since I was 12 years old. Because, I felt like I had nowhere to go.
Self-medicating with every drug imaginable and booze and just anything to get me out of myself.
Developmentally, he's really stifled me quite a bit, especially in terms of trying to make me like him, which ended up with me being quite lonely and socially isolated myself, much like him. But I haven't experienced much in terms of blatant cruelty. I myself, unlike my siblings, was never really hit or beaten or abused emotionally.
I was constantly beaten as a kid. Success was just expected. There was no going above overachieving. And that was the expectation for all of our family. And I feel like even with my mom somewhat, the success thing was extremely prevalent. But my dad was more active and aggressive versus my mom being passive about the success issue.
My dad was just screaming at him about how stupid he was, and he would never get a real job, and he was going to be useless all of his life.
When I was 7 years old, I remember I got a B on a science test, and I came home and my dad punched me and threw me on the ground and was like, you're going to be a garbage man for the rest of your life. You're never going to amount to anything.
At one point, whenever I was, I believe, in elementary school, going into middle school, we had gone for a walk. We were walking along the track, and there were 2 middle-aged women walking there. And he had started up a conversation with them. And I had made some comments to razz him, burn him in some way, shape, or form, a joke. When we got in the car, he said, "Think you're real fucking funny, don't you? Think you're fucking clever doing that. You made me look like a fucking idiot. Why would you do that? Do you have no respect for me?" I was crying in the backseat. He started yelling at me about my crying, saying how I got it from my mom's side, all the uppityness, all the lack of respect, all the snide comments, all the snarkiness, all the smugness.
I don't know if he used his shoulder or his foot, but he knocked the door in and broke the lock, and he grabbed me by the wrist and dragged me into the living room and started berating me about how I was useless, and I climbed out the window in my bare feet and ran. So I came to my mom's house, and that was the last time I ever went to his house.
He won't accept that she was in the right for running away.
What has hurt me the most about what he's done is simply that he doesn't admit that to anything that he's done wrong. He's blamed other people for everything, and when you're a kid growing up in a divorced household, you're supposed to have a role model in your father or your mother, and when one is slowly just falling in on herself and the other one blames everyone else for his problems and continues to this day, you kind of struggle to develop your own morality separate from that.
It's been a long time since I think he would have done anything really nice for me. I really had a lot of doubts right before we got married, and of course weddings are really big events, a lot of money spent and family coming in, a lot of planning. And on the way to the church, and my dad drove me there, I wanted so badly to tell my dad to just take me home, that I was making a mistake. But I got through that, and I went to the church, and when I got to the front of the church, he smelled like alcohol, and it was just awful. I admire the men and women who are going to a church and saying, I'm going to get married, and then they say this, change their minds, even if it's last minute. If it's not the right thing to do, then it's not the right thing to do, and I probably should have done that.
Some people have worse problems than me. Some people have less.
I don't know if I'll ever have kids.
A family isn't blood, it's people who care about you, and I would say that that's true.
Forgiveness is like a really simple word.
Every situation that you go through in life, I've learned, has an extreme silver lining to it. For me, what I positively use it for is I use it for acting.